Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to The Truth, where today we're going to be talking about the Buffalo Bills. The Bills had a really interesting strategy this offseason. They moved on from a lot of players to get cheaper, stay under the cap, and kind of rebuild that roster for them. So the draft's going to be really important for them. The two things I want to mention before we get into the cap and their signings and stuff that they've made so far, they do have extra picks. So this is a team who could potentially still be able to trade up and to get better talent in the draft for this team. That is a very viable option. But getting into it, I was like I said before, they have extra picks, so that means I was able to address every single position. Starting out, I want defensive tackle Johnny Newton out of Illinois. Look, this is going to be a guy who's going to be able to rush the passer, stop the run, and really be able to get in and be a starter and be a difference maker on that Bills D line. That's one thing that was so good for so long and it's now taking a hit. I think adding to it, it really is going to help. Next, I picked Max Melton, 5'11", super athletic guy, 9.59 RS score. This is a guy who's gonna need some work. I mean, it's gonna be no guy you're gonna get is going to be like what you had unless you're picking in top in the first round, and that's just not the case. So, but I mean, it's something. It is something to start and to work with and to get better at. But who knows? He could be one of those guys who was just probably terrible rating and pops off, or he could just be what we think he is. The next picks I picked offensive guard Leighton Robinson, 6'3", 302, big guy, kind of fits that mold and that size and that your typical guard size. Next I picked a Biru Limmer, offensive center out of Arkansas, 6'4", big center. He's a big athletic guy who is going to be nice to mold, a nice guy you can mold into be a big difference maker for you. And I feel like that's really important, is kind of rebuilding this offensive line that because you lost some pieces, rebuilding it, and then making sure it's cheap, athletic, and good. Because now in the modern days, you don't want these slow offensive linemen. You want athletic guys on your line who can handle these dynamic pass rushers. So having another guy to pair along with that, it will really help. And then I filled out the depth for the Bills with defensive tackle Tyler Davis. 6'2", 301. This is a guy who played at Clemson and did pretty well. At pick 160, I filled out the depth for their safety. Tyreek Smith, coming out of Georgia. This is a guy who can play his role. This guy is going to play his role. And I feel like when you need him to step in and say, hey, just do this, focus on this, and don't ask him to do too much, he will succeed in it. And then they do need a depth at receiver. And this was kind of a pick. It was like his ceiling is so high. And when you're picking so far deep for a backup receiver, his ceiling is so high that why not take a chance on him? And if he hits, you just freaking hit a home run. Super, super athletic. This guy is one of the most athletic receivers in the draft. At 6'2", 212, big body. For his size, he's a fast guy. Man, he hasn't. The reason he isn't like in the first round is because he hasn't produced yet. But his potential's there, and I think it's worth taking for a backup. I feel like this is a case where it's okay to kind of bank on a guy's ceiling, because let's say you do hit on it, great, you have an amazing receiver now. You don't hit, you got a backup at depth at least, and that's where it's like I feel like whenever we say we need to, he has a super high ceiling, is it worth it? Especially when we're talking about starter, but when we're talking about depth piece, I think it's definitely worth it. So if they get this pick, I think it's a swing home run. Kind of showing you this and getting into it. Some players I want to get into who they signed. Receiver Curtis Samuel, a linebacker Nicholas Morrow, safety Mike Edwards, quarterback Mitch Trubisky, defensive end AJ Espinoza, defensive tackle Daquan Jones, and more. It's just these are the guys who have filled their holes for them, and they've also signed other guys. They have about $8.5 million officially, 8,540,000. Or yeah, $540,588 left in cap. So you could make a couple signings. I really don't think they're gonna break the bank on anybody, like especially at this late in the free agency. Now, wave two is still post draft. That is still that you can still get quality guys. It's just we'll see. Um, Guard is something you need. Defensive tackle. I mean, I do want to show you guys this, so I'm not like you understand kind of my thought process when I go through things. When I'm looking for a starting defensive tackle, no guy really says, "Yep, that's a guy you need to go after." He will instantly fill the hole. There's no really guy, especially with getting one of the if you get one of the top defensive tackles on the draft, you'll be okay. So I don't see a guy that pops off. Plus that fact, I'm kind of avoiding that. Guard is something that is really interesting because you have two guys right now in free agency still that are you guys you could sign. I don't think like with each day, I think their draft stock. I think their sorry, not draft stock. Their how much they're gonna make is just going down and down. Like I think these guys are getting closer to more vet minimums as we speak. I'm not saying they're going to get vet minimums, but I think it's more like I was thinking these guys are probably going to get 5, maybe 6, at most 5, maybe 4 now. Like that's kind of where I'm feeling right now. Kind of getting the feelings like these guys really aren't going to break the bank. They're probably going to get 4. But that's a possibility. Now, if you do sign one of these guys, it takes away. You're basically just going straight to the draft because of the possibility if they are 4, if they do cost you about $4 million. If it's less, amazing. But that's kind of where we're at. I do want to talk about other things as well. Getting into cornerback, which is a need. I just want to show y'all cornerbacks. I just kind of show you what's the situation looking like. J.C. Jackson still on the board. Andre Jackson still on the board. The market value will pop up. But look, these guys are pretty expensive. 11.3. Stephon Gilmore's pretty interesting. Where's Stephon Gilmore? He is 33, so he's older. C.J. Henderson got signed. But he's 11.1 is what he's averaging. Like, these are more expensive. These guys are going to cost a little bit. And I'm surprised that these guys haven't picked up J.C. Jackson, Xavier Howard. Like, I'm really surprised. But kind of getting into it, like I really think the smartest option is honestly to go guard because that's. Oh, actually, did that show center? I did not show center. We'll take a look at center. And I'll show you kind of the centers available. Connor Williams is the big one. I think that's the only really guy everyone's kind of looking at, saying, okay, what can we really? What's going to happen with him? That's the one where it's kind of like, oh, that's up in the air. Is Connor Williams out of Miami? Other than that, it's really not really looking for anybody else except for depth. Will Clapp's there for nice depth. He's a younger guy, Mason Cole. But no, Connor Williams is there. It's kind of like, okay, what is he gonna do? Like, where's he gonna sign? And that's really gonna affect a lot of things. But I do think it's the smartest option and the more affordable option is to go guard, whether that's Pete, whether that's Lincoln Tomlinson, or whether that's Cody Whitehair. Any of these guys. You want, and that right now I'll say they're going for about 4. And by the time it depends on by the time I talk about guard, I could change my mind and say, hey, they might be at 3 now. Like it just keeps going down. I thought these guys are going to get a little bit more, but it's just the market's not there for them. And some of these are pretty solid players. $4,540,588 is left in cap. And you do take care of guard too. So that kind of opens things up in the draft. So if I restart this, confirm, fast, go to the Bills. Let's get started. Reject. Nate Wiggins is here. That's interesting. I think the fact that Nate Wiggins fell, I think you got to swing. If Nate Wiggins somehow falls to 28, which which I don't think he will. But let's say he does, you're pulling the trigger on that, and then just hoping you can get a nice defensive tackle in the second round at pick 60. But I mean, that's a solid pick. And you get an option between Ruka who's off the charts RS score, and Leonard Taylor. Kind of go on Ruka just because of his versatility. This guy's really versatile, and he's big too. He's 6'4", probably gonna play 305. Like, this is a big guy. He's a space eater. He's gonna be really good for you. This happened to be a great draft for them. Ruka falls to them, and this is now that this is happening, things are really opening up. I think you do try to get a quality center, Tanner Bordellini. Let's see if we can actually get him, and we do. Tanner Bordellini. Now that you're picking with this pick, you can actually sign a guy like that. Things are really opening up more now that you get past corner and defensive tackle. You pick up an earlier center. Now with that pick, 133 in the fourth round, we're looking at a guy like Malik out of Wake Forest, or let's see if I can pull up defense safeties. Malik, Tyreek Smith, who I've talked about before. Receiver wise, you're looking at a Jacob Crowing, a Luke McCaffrey, or a Taji Washington, guys like that. On the defensive tackle side, you're looking at guys like Jordan Jefferson, Kenneth Randolph Jr., or Justin Adebike. Big guys. These are big. Oh, Kenneth Randolph Jr. and Justin Adebike are huge guys. Things kind of play around. I will go safety just because you'd like a guy who's kind of a thicker guy. You kind of want a big safety just because that means you can play him in the box and play him in zone coverage too. And then you get Jordan Jefferson right here to be your backup defensive tackle. And with a guy who still needs time to develop, that's really nice to have in Jordan Jefferson. And then receiver, kind of looking at it, okay, Cornelius Johnson's still on the board if you want to take a shot at him. Jaquan Jackson out of Tulane. He was a guy who did a lot of things. Jalen Cocker, receiver of Holy Cross, another relatively nice size receiver who's super athletic and has produced more. The reason these guys are probably ranked higher is because they've produced. Taji Washington is here. Man, 5'9", 174. He's smaller, but he's a big playmaker. He has nice speed. I feel like this is something nice to add to it. When you have speed like that, it adds another dimension to the offense. And the fact that he's a guy who you can throw the ball to. He's going to work in the slot more. Probably going to be kind of like your Gabe Davis, but not like the physical go-up guy, but the slot working and stuff like that. And he's going to also give you kick return possibilities now that you lost Deontay Hardy. That really opens things up. So I think Taji Washington is a steal for them with USC. And that's going to end the draft. Now I'd like to mention that if they do pick up another guy, that opens up an extra pick for them to trade. Whether they want to trade back for next year's draft or trade up in this year's draft, there's lots of possibilities. But going through it, just want to go through the draft. Nate Wiggins, cornerback of Clemson at pick 28. Ruka Rora, defensive tackle of Clemson at pick 60. Tanner Bordellini, offensive center out of Wisconsin, pick 128. Malik Mustafa, I butchered that definitely. Safety out of Wake Forest at pick 133. Defensive tackle out of LSU, Jordan Jefferson at pick 144. And then Taji Washington, receiver of USC at pick 160. This is their draft. Kind of let me know what y'all think about it. Do you kind of agree with how this draft went out? Or do you think they take a different approach? Or do you like the free agency? Or how much do you think these guys go for? Other than that, thank you all for watching, and I will talk to y'all next time.